Welcome to Keys to Living. It's Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and that's when we air it out. And I am Herb Keener, the host. Today, I want to talk about different things that's going on right now in my life. And now, as I see, there's really turmoil going on, but we need to touch on who we are in the middle of this situation. Now we're starting a new thing here at CVT. Is I'm doing this show every other week, so I need to have more time to gather information and gather what's going on. But it always ends up me just saying what I feel and how I feel about what's going on. But the main thing is God is number one no matter what. Everything else comes from behind that. This first episode is I want to start off with promoting my book. Now, my book, Decision to Die, Strength to Live. Now, that was me. Everything in here is about me being in the wilderness in Tennessee, and I was at the time 43 years old. And I'm 81 now, so you know it's been a day or two since that happened. So what I'm telling you is you need to get in and start looking at it. Go to my website or start giving me some info. So let me know whether this is doing any good for anybody. Just email me at herb@herbkeener.com. And you want to go to my website is herbkeener.com, and there's a place to test out the pages of the book to see if you are interested in even purchasing one. But what I'm telling you, every word in that book is true. I lived it. I crawled in the swamp. I climbed the trees. I done all the crazy things that's in that book. So what I'm asking you today is give me some feedback on this program or about the book. And if you can't afford that book, you give me an email, herb@herbkeener.com, and we'll discuss it, me just sending you one. So don't take for a minute, because money at this point is not an issue. It's those of you that are out there, if you're thinking about getting into something, if something really seems like it's so good that it can't be true, well, let me get you for sure, it's probably not true. I started in how I got involved in drug running was through friends, meeting people here, there, and people going to jail, and then nobody behind them. You know, when I went to jail, I didn't nobody fell behind me. So the syndicate took a look at me and tested me for over a year, then offered me this lucrative thing. The only thing that I didn't know is there was an undercover agent in the organization already for the period of 3 years. And I'm the new runner, and guess who I got to work with. So anyway, you need to get that book and find out all about it. And God has gave me a lot of insight. There's one thing for sure, I am blessed to be born in the United States of America. Now, for those of you that are bashing this country, you need to go find another one. Because number one, you can bash it all you want about the bad things and all that. But here's the deal. We're free because of the United States of America to do this without penalty. Go try that in Russia. Go try that in these other towns and places that hold you accountable for every word you say and put you in prison for making one smart remark about a leader. So we're in a country that is free. And I'm sure all the racists and all that stuff, it needs to be taken up as an issue. And it needs to be dealt with. It needs to be eliminated. This country doesn't need that in it. What we need in this country is unity. And right at this moment, we're talking about a lot of things. But here now you talk about, you see Ukraine. Ukraine has come into the picture now because of what's going on in Russia. Now, if you think for a moment that Putin woke up one morning and said, well, you know, I just think we'll go invade Ukraine. This man has been planning this for a long time. He's been wooing the United States. He's been wooing the UK. He's been wooing everybody, getting everybody to say what a great guy he is. And now he's doing what his whole desire was. Now, you need to think about this. You're in the United States of America. You don't have to worry about getting up in the morning and running off trying to get another country that'll take you in and feed you and keep you. You're not in those long lines waiting to get out of Ukraine because you're afraid your family's going to be killed. You're not into a position where, like the young men are, where they drive their families for hours and hours to get them out of harm's way, then they go back to fight the enemy. You know, I personally feel, once I learned what the worth was for Putin, the worth is $200 billion. So you know he's not doing it for money. So he's just doing it for a legacy. Taking people's lives, children's life, and families, just wiping families out, and all this, and total chaos. But in his own country, he's worth $200 billion, and there's people starving to death. So I don't think that our worst leaders were never as bad as that. So what I'm telling you is we need to rethink who we are. We need to rethink where we are. We're in a country that is free. There's a lot of people that'll tell you, oh, no, we're bound down. No, we're not bound down. You know, Putin has people bound down. He's trying to control something that God meant to be free. He's trying to control people's mind and attitude. He's going in, taking lives, innocent lives. He's not taking people that deserve to die. He's taking people that do not deserve to die. Their lives are being taken every day. I was looking yesterday, and it was thousands of even Russian soldiers were dead. And then there was thousands of Ukrainians, including children, dead. Now, come on. It's time we start looking at where our faith is, where our power is, and it's not in somebody looking like Putin. It's not even somebody looking like Biden, but it's God Almighty who has more power than either one of those guys ever thought of having. Now, I'm not a political man. I'm not going to get involved in that. You know, I love people. I don't care what color they are, because it's not the person of color. It's what's inside. If they're a jerk, I don't care what color they are. They are a jerk. If they're a loving, compassionate person, I am blessed to know them no matter what country they come from, no matter what language they speak. It's about honoring one another. It's about being in unity. Now look at how hard Ukrainians are fighting, and just look at all the troops headed in that direction. It looks like their demise is at hand. But you got to know this for sure. Nobody has control over what's going to happen. God has control. So in the faith, pray for them Ukrainians, pray for their families. Just think about your own child. Look at that child sitting around you and begin to know, what if they were in that position? Well, they're not, because you're in a country that's never, I'm 81 years old. I've never had to get out of bed in the morning and start running to some border to escape somebody that was going to be just totally bear down on me and not letting me live my life. I've always been able to live my life. That's how I got in so much trouble. But what I'm telling you is, we need to know this. We need to start praying for those people, praying for things. Now, I'm going to tell you for sure. Now, I'm going to tell you a verse to look at And this verse is absolutely astounding. First, you look at Proverbs 22:6. It basically says, raise your child up as they should go when they're young. Raise them up, and then when they get old, they'll not leave the faith. They will know right from wrong. I figured anything that was right for me couldn't be wrong. But see, I was raised up in a Christian environment, but I never took any effect of it whatsoever. But now, at 44 years old, when I was going to die, I decided to take the other route. But what I'm telling you, God is saying, and he's telling you in Matthew 18:10, it tells you, you better be careful for what you do to these children because their angels are always in the face of the Lord. In other words, they're protectors. Now, you think for a minute these innocent children being killed, if Putin is responsible, he will meet what's the justice that's coming to him. It may not be in this world. But how free could he be? He's got $200 billion. He got the control of an army that doesn't even like him. And their country's going down. They can't even afford to buy groceries. Their money is absolutely worthless. So where is his joy? Is his joy in God? No way. He can't be. He has to be miserable. Now, whatever he's trying to do, I'm sure it has to do with his legacy. In the first place, I could care less what people think about me when I'm dead. I have a hard enough time getting them to think about me while I'm alive. So why would I care about what they thought about me when I'm dead? You give me $200 billion, and I promise you I won't worry about anything to deal with the afterlife. But prayer is the deal. Prayer is what is the most outstanding factor we need for the Ukrainians. I don't know anything about that country, but I know this. Children should not be dying at a young age. Families should not be separated going to a war and the wife going to another country that they've never been to. All the countries of the world are rising up, helping these refugees. But there should not be any refugees to have to deal with. Russia, right now, is totally out there on their own. The only people they got even rooting for them is a bunch of heathens like them. So you Christians, you need to be praying for them. And you people that are not Christians, you need to look at your children and say, where did that child come from? Come from God. Would you put him in the middle of that? Would you put him, if this family was all, if Putin's family was all involved in this and dying, you'd see him raising Cain. But these families are the same. They're the same, and they're dying, and they're being destitute out of what? Out of greed of one person who is controlling a nation that's out of control. Nothing a political end to this. I have two very good friends that are running for office this year. And number one, I have one is he's in Stockton, California, which would be the San Joaquin County. He's running for Congress. Now, his name is Jim Shoemaker. Now, what I want you to do is go to shoemakerforcongress.com. I've holding it up right here, and you will see his values. I know him personally. I have known him for years. And at first, it shocked me that he was running, but then the more I thought about it, I know his values. His values are correct and in the right direction. He's a Christian-loving man with his family, he is with the community, he is more honest than you can shake a stick at. So what I'm telling you is, get there, find out what he stands for. Now, this is his first time running up in it. He's in some local political things, but he wants to head to Congress so he can help that district. He can help San Joaquin Valley out. So those of you down there in Stockton and in the San Joaquin County, you start looking at Jim Shoemaker and take a look at what he does and what he's been doing and what his plans are. And he has a large website and he has a great following. He has people helping him. Another dear friend of mine is helping him through this, and I just hope God blesses him to the point that he gets in there and does make a difference. And I believe that if he gets in with his thoughts and stick with his reasoning, he's going to do some good. So I'm asking you to take a look. If you know people in San Joaquin, give them a call and tell them to look up Jim Shoemaker for Congress. And the second man is right here in our studio. He's the owner of CVT, California Valley Talk, Central Valley Talk, not California, same difference. But his name is Mike Briggs. Now I know, without a doubt, these people that are in District 1 need to think about this. He was on the council. He's running for city council. And he was on the council in 1994 to 1998. Then he went to state assembly 1998 to 2002. So you don't have somebody jumping up just a wannabe. He's already been. And now he sees this is the time that they need experienced people on that board. I mean, just think of what's going on in just District 1. All you have to do is get in there and look at Mike Briggs for Congress on Google, and it'll tell you all about him. And I promise you, there's one thing I know about him as well as I do about Shoemaker. He's a very honest person, and he knows how to get things done. But getting things done, if you're out of office, doesn't help much. But if you're in office and you get things done, things happen, things change. So know this for sure. If you're going to vote in that District 1 for Fresno, let it be for Mike Briggs. I assure you, you won't be sorry. Just look his record up. He's a man of integrity. Okay, now we've ripped up Ukraine and we've talked about my associates. We talked about my book. Now let's talk about you. 3 R's. Number 1, R, the reason we are stupid. The reason we are doing what we're doing. The reason we are crazy. And then what is the reaction? And then what is the results? You see, because when you're driving down a road and somebody honks at you and gives you the finger and does all these kind of things, cuts you off, now that gives you a reason to get mad. But see, is the reason worth it? Think about this. People are pulling guns out, shooting and killing people. Now, would it not be better to let that man go on and be crazy and let somebody else get shot by him? And the reason that you are doing what you do is because you want to stay alive. Now, I know it may sound crazy, but see, the reaction depends on the results. Now, reaction can do a lot of things. Reactions can get you killed. can get you hurt or can bless you. Because if you ignore the idiocy of what's going on in this world now, ignore the crazy drivers, just back off and let them go, or somebody attacks you, you defend yourself naturally. But the reason we get angry should be only life, death. Don't let anger become the reason that you are dead. And don't let anger be the reason that you're hurt. When somebody gives you a reason, see, that's the thing. I mean, I used to instantly just get flustered and crazily react to them, man, holler and scream, honk, dive at them with my car and all that. But it finally come to a realization that I'm going to have to get out and fight this person, or I'm going to have to crash into their car if I'm so angry. But I found something out. I found out that when I lit up and back off and just ignore the stupidity that was just going on, and my reaction is peace, just saying, okay, he's more important than I am, because I don't want to die, and I'm sure he doesn't. I don't want to go to the hospital, and I'm sure he doesn't. I want peace in my life. I don't know whether he does or not, but you let him go. Don't get caught up. If people thought about their children and their family at the time they get involved in this, it make it easier for you to back off. But see, there's always a reason for anger. And there's always a result from that. And then, the results can either be good or bad. What I'm telling you is we need to know more about who we are in our integrity, And tell me, what do you think personally? Now, all you crazy people out there, you can just laugh at what I'm doing or not. But here's what I'm telling you. What's it worth to be right? Is it worth a divorce? Is it worth losing your family? What's it worth to be right? Who cares? If we let our pride get out there for our reaction, we'll always get in trouble. But if we know in our heart we need to protect who we are, because we've got to protect who they are, our family. And if you don't protect your family, then it's going to be on you and the guilt. So what's it worth to be right? What's it worth to say, well, I was in the right. I shot that guy and killed him. Just because I'm doing 25 to life doesn't mean anything. You see, that should not even be in the picture. Start learning what the amount of love that's in your heart, not the amount of anger. Look what's going on in Ukraine, just as I said. It's so terrible to see those families, see the elderly people. Now, I can see me at 81 years old trying to run down roads and go somewhere. I think that would be my end. I wouldn't make that one. But see, what I'm telling you today is we're in the United States of America, and God bless that. And you can't bash the freedom we have. You can bash the political end of it. You can say nobody's getting treated right. That's all well and good. But you can't bash our Constitution, because if you do, you belong somewhere else. You belong over in Ukraine or Russia or China or anywhere that then once you got there and you opened your mouth and you ended up in prison for 10 years for opening your mouth, you'd say, well, the United States wasn't half bad. I'm telling you, we need to embrace our country, embrace our people, and pray for our leaders and turn the United States not back into what it was, into what's something new, into the new era. In the old area was racism and ugliness and cheating, stealing, killing people. And now, so far, we've come up with things that people want to take the money away from the police. Now, that's all well and good, except for we've got a few towns that done that, cities up in the northern part of our country, and they're a mess. They got people killing people. Crime is up 100%. Everything is just abased. Now they got to be looking at it. And people that get mad because you talk about funding police, come on. Who do you want to show up at your door when you're dying of a heart attack? Come on now. This has got to get real. You got to get back. I know if you've got 10 people and you put them in a circle, I guarantee you one of them's going to be corrupt and one of them not going to be good. But them other 9 or 8 or 7, they're going to be good people, and they're the ones that's going to be there to help you. And then just weed out the bad ones. Our problem was in the United States of America, is we hid too many of our problems. Now they're getting exposed, and now they're overreacting. We need police. You don't have police. We've already got people in the communities that are saying crimes don't matter anymore. We just let them go. No big deal. Now, this man yesterday, 39 years old, in a Sacramento church, killed his 3 daughters and the mediator that brought them. And he was out on bail because he was aggravated assault. And there was a restraining order against him for his wife. Did that stop him from killing his 3 children? No. I mean, just think about that. What God says about these children, Jesus said it would be better that a milestone be turned around your neck, tied around your neck, threw into the ocean, into the deepest part, than it would be to harm one of his children. Don't you know where this man has put himself? Not only did the 3 innocent children, but here we go with the person in their 50s that died way too early. He used to be an executive at the church. So don't tell me that you don't need police. In the first place, we need to look at our courts. I mean, we've got people doing some atrocious things and let out on no bail. Come on now, there's got to be something. Somebody's going to have to be accountable sometime. Now, I bet if it was one of their family, that'd be another story. They'd probably want to hang them high if they hurt one of their family. But being they don't know them is no big deal. That's what's got to stop here, is we overreacted and took the judicial system to a point where it's worthless. It's not any good at all. The district attorneys are just saying, no big deal. Yeah, just let them go. This man killed 3 children and another person. So I'm telling you, something has to be done, but it's only be done with prayer. I mean, on your knees, in your heart. You need to begin to see the reality of what God is doing, and let him take care of these things that we can't take care of. But we got to quit fighting the system and start embracing reality and justice, and true justice. Not because of the color of your skin, not because of how much money you have, but just who you are. You are a God-born child. We'll talk to you in the next segment. God bless. I'm back. Okay, we've fired up about all these other things, and now I want to talk to you about the greatest thing that's getting us all in trouble and in positions we don't need to be in. Anger is such a demon thing. It can make you do things and 5 seconds later regret it because of the anger that pulled up inside of you. What I'd like to do for the rest of this is kind of figure out, are you one of them that explodes in a fiery rage when something doesn't go your way? Now, if you are, we need to sit back and look at exactly what causes that. A lot of it is hereditary, but most of it is self-made. Some people can't stand being rejected. Some people can't stand things that people say. But in order to treat anger in the right way, as far as I'm concerned, is you got to know, who do you trust in? Do you trust in yourself? Do you trust in the educational system? How about just life's lesson? Or do you trust in God? God tells us to seek godly counsel. If someone comes along and advises you something that talks about godly counsel, and they go out of the boundaries of the Bible, you need to reject that counseling. Because, number one, the Bible holds true everything that we need to keep not only anger in control, but, I'm amazed at how many people I've seen lately that are so full of themselves that they don't have room for anybody else. It's amazing, the arrogance I've seen, and wow. And what really scares me is I think I used to be one of them. So you take it like this: if you're able to overcome, there's such great rewards. But if you never overcome, you're going to be miserable until you die. I remember being in a position of thinking I didn't need anybody for any reason at all. I was all I needed. I don't know who I thought I was, but it doesn't work like that, especially if you have children. God will use people in your life. He will send people in your life. You need to start looking for that person that comes into your life that's able to trigger that thing in your head that says, wow, is that who I really am? Because I'm going to tell you, at 81, I struggle myself to maintain sanity. So many things can happen. It's financial, it's physical, it's mental. There's so many things that can happen, but we have to combat it every day. And if we quit combating, that means we fall into it and we become what we never wanted to be. We become something we used to be that we never wanted to be. If someone comes into your life and it begins to be a feeling of they have something for you, and you begin to talk with them and you begin to understand that the reality of God is love, peace, harmony. We don't have to compete. We don't have to worry about how much somebody else has. He says, don't compare yourself to somebody else. We need to deal with who we are inside. I want to read you this one thing. I'm not sure in one of the other episodes I might have read it, but I think today's a good time because this is the first broadcast of starting every other week. So I'm going to start it fresh like this. There has never in the history been a day just like today. There never will be a day in the future just like today. Today is the day the Lord made for us to be involved in, dealing with the things of this life. Love found, love lost. Agreements, disagreements. Gaining friends, losing friends. Birth of a new child, death of a loved one. Having plenty, having nothing. It all seems so useless and confusing. We look so hard to please people, we forget that our life is important, and the one we need to please the most and to become satisfied for this special day is us. How can we possibly love others if we cannot love ourselves and the ones God has allowed in our lives? That's today. Now, we're going to have people die in our life. There's going to be people born into our life. There's going to be friends come. There's going to be friends go. We have to deal this on a daily basis. Now, those people that are homeless, and a lot of them, especially the druggies and the alkies that have ripped off every person that they've known, every relative and everything. Now they've run out of people to rip off. So today is the day they need to say, okay, wait a minute, I don't need to be that guy. Because they've already tried that and see it doesn't work because they end up homeless. Now, I'm not talking about the ones that are homeless for the lack of finances. I'm talking about the ones out there with drugs. We run a drug rehab for many years, and you can imagine the excuses. And the minute they got on their feet, what did they do? They went right back to that drug. 90% of them. And but again, I say, if there's 10 people in a circle and one of them's bad, or if 9 of them's bad and one's good, that's far as I'm concerned, that's progress, because that means one is showing back up to what he should be or she should be. Excuse me. I want to get into the mode of penetrating your hard head like I have. And those of you that understand need to start praying for those that do not understand. See, we all know someone in all facets of life. Now, those that are really bad, we don't hang out with. We say hi to them and bye to them and, exchange niceties. But other than that, we don't mess with them. But those that are more compatible to our thinking and the way we are. You see, I know for sure one drug, like marijuana, for instance, one drug is not going to take you into the next drug. It's the person that's handling that drug. It's a body. It's a person. Because when a person deals with drugs, they deal with a diversity of drugs. They'll deal with marijuana, cocaine, heroin, all the things that they'll deal with all they can to make their money. So it's not the drug itself that takes you up another notch on the ladder. It's the person dealing that drug. He wants to promote that. So while you're high on marijuana, he might convince you that you need to do cocaine. Or he might convince you, well, let's try heroin. This is what I'm talking about. It's not the product that gets you in problem. It's the person that handles the product. So people are the problem. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. They use a gun to do it. Drunk drivers kill people. They use a car to do it, but they're the driver. It's the people that need to change their heart, change their mind, change their way. If you don't have integrity, get a shovel and dig it up. Find out what integrity is. Find out what God says about integrity. Talk about what God said is honesty and dishonesty. Find out what it's like to be a stand-up person, that when you walk into a room that people are glad to see you and they don't go hiding their jewelry and all their stuff, checking their wallet. I'm telling you, folks, a better America is only through better people. It's not through land, it's not through finances, it's through the integrity and the willfulness of the person in position. Now, I'm way, way too far down the food chain to change anything about this country. But there's people being raised up today that will be in a position to do it. You need to start praying for their guidance, for their direction. Look at how many corrupt people have been taken down. They get in a position of power and greed takes them down. I mean, you could list probably a mile long or more since time started and when political things began to happen. People get into political offices and their heart's probably right at the beginning, but then the greed starts setting in. This is where we need to change, is the mind and hearts of those that are in that position. We need to start being sure of who's being put in the right position and who's not. When people get in there and they start using their power for their own needs and for their people and using it for things other than good, in other words, taking from the poor and keeping it for themselves. Now, that effect, I don't know how a man could justify getting into a position, instead of helping the poor, helping those that are less fortunate, is take what is received to do that and pocket that and become filthy rich. And just to let a little bit of it trickle down to where it really should all be. Now, there is no justification for that. And usually when they get caught, they get slapped on the hand and said, don't do it again. You can't run for office for another year. And next thing you know, they're back running it again. So the system is broken. But it's the best system there is right now. But if everyone begins to be aware of this system, somebody can change it. We just need to know that it needs changing. Some people will stick their head in the sand and say it doesn't need changing. Others will come up with stuff that way beyond overkill. I mean, they want to put all the cops in prison and let everybody do what they were doing. But there's a middle ground here now. There's a middle ground to not doing anything and to doing way too much. The middle ground is common sense and justice. Because common sense is just doing what's right and not doing what's wrong. But in the Bible it says, in the latter days, what is right will be wrong, and what is wrong will be right. Now, how far is that away from the truth? That's right into the heart of things. I mean, I just looked at the news yesterday, and you could just see it. I mean, it went from one stagnation to overbearing. It went from a little Volkswagen to a big limousine real quick. And somewhere in the middle, there's a Chevy or a Ford. Now, we're either not doing anything or we're doing too much, and we're bypassing the middle ground, which the people need to understand. There needs to be justice. There needs to be fairness. But the only way that comes is how we react. What's our reaction to this? So I'm going to get off of the political realm, and I'm going to start getting back on the anger. I feel there's somebody out there that could really use a way to get out from under that anger. Because, number one, that'll keep you down. How many people you think would hire somebody that would scream and holler at them after call them ugly names and chew them out? Now, how many people do you think would hire somebody like that? Well, that'd be your first concern. Second concern is when you see your family, how do they look at you? Whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, how does your family look at you? And they say, oh, wow, Mom, Dad, glad to see you. Or are they hitting the room when they see you coming through the door? Now, there's a middle ground there. See, there's a compassion and love. There's time to be stern. There's time to raising children up and making sure they're going the right way and wrong way. You know, the biggest problem with people in my era when they was raised up, they didn't know who their friends were. You find out who your son or daughter's hanging with, and you'll find out where they're getting their information. Let me tell you something. If you're not going to educate them along with the system's going to teach them something you don't want them to even know. So who are they hanging with? In my day, my mom, she never knew, you know, she was a single parent and in the 50s, and wow, you know, she had no way of getting around, find out who I was hanging with, and generally I hung with the hoods, and so, and always into things. Stole my first car when I was 13, and then second one when I was 15, and so done a little bit of time for that, and but even then it wasn't bad, and it was a couple of weeks in juvenile, and then 50 days the second time. But when I turned 18, that's another story. But you need to find out where are they getting their lifting up from? Where are they getting their motivation? Where are they getting the things to do? If you don't know who your child's hanging with, you're rolling the dice on how their education is going to be. Because one person with the wrong ideas and the way in the terrible way to go, take away all the education and everything, because it only takes one time to make the biggest mistake of your life. I used to go into San Quentin after I become a minister, and I ministered to them mainly because I was fortunate not to get in there. And I went in, and a 19-year-old young man, this has been many years ago, he set his house, his trailer house, on fire, killed his wife and 2 children. He was 19 years old. Now, he done that under the influence of PCP. He told me he has no recollection whatsoever of what happened. But PCP is a very dangerous drug. And so I would talk to him when I go in. I'd lead him to the sinner's prayer. I'd talk to him. He was fine. He's 19 years old, young man. And I just tried my best to get him to, I know how hard that must be to take that thought out of your mind. You killed your wife and 2 kids because of a drug. So I continually talked to him, and he'd always receive it and everything, but he always took the Bible and took it to the part where Beelzebub hung himself, the devil, and he said, "This is what I'm going to do." I said, "Well, no, killing yourself is not going to make the difference." Well, one day I come in, 1-year anniversary of him burning the seat down. He hung himself in a jail cell. So here we had 2 kids, a wife, and now the young man gone for nothing, for a stupid one-moment feeling of a drug. You see, his parents didn't find out who he was hanging with. His parents didn't find out that he was associating with drug dealers. They didn't find out he was just given the run. And they probably thought they were doing him a favor by getting him the freedom. Here he gets married, has a couple kids, and the influence that he got from a drug dealer, and then the using of a drug that put him out of his mind, psychedelic mind, killed his family and ended up killing himself. So there you have 4 people wiped out, all because probably there was a time of a decision. There was that time of decision that he could have made a right decision instead of a wrong decision. That's why we need to be careful of who our kids are hanging with, what they're doing. And you know what? Anger plays a great part in this. Because if your anger flares up against your children, I mean, you drive them in a corner, and all they can do is get in that corner, and all they feel is that anger. They don't remember the time we went out and played catch or played ball, but boy, they remember when you come in angry, and maybe you slapped your wife, or maybe you slapped your kid or something, and that anger caused you to lose control, because if they don't respect you, they're definitely not going to follow you. And if you're a kind of person that goes through the anger situation and just keeps your children on walking on eggs all the time, they don't need to follow you. They need to follow somebody with a motivation of love and compassion. There's always a time to be angry, but there's not one time to be sinning in that anger, using physical force or things like that. I remember getting mad many times at what my kids done, but I didn't beat them half to death for it. We got angry and maybe told them how disappointed I was. But when I was with them, I was one of them missing fathers, and I was more in the bars and I wasn't there. So I know the feeling and the guilt. I've already been through all that. At 81 years old, if I could change everything, I would, but I can't. So, and just by the grace of God and a good mother, they ended up okay. But what I'm saying today is, you people that have children now need to start paying attention to who they're paying attention to. Because if you don't, their attitude is going to come from that person, not from you. Their integrity is going to come from outside the home, outside the educational system. Now we're getting infiltrated in the educational system with so much garbage. It's not even funny. So you got to be on top of what you're being taught in school. You got to be on top of what they're doing in their private life. And if you're not giving them a chance. And I know it was not an easy job. I'm sure of it. I see it. But I've seen also the results of doing it. I've watched children grow up and get out there. I've got great-grandchildren. I've got grandchildren. A lot of my grandchildren turned out really well. Some of them turned out really bad. But that's how it goes. There comes a time when everything else has to be turned loose and you're on your own. You got to make decisions on what's right and what's wrong. And if you're not prepared for that, 90% of the time you do what's wrong instead of what's right. But when you have the compassion and the love of a parent that's there, devoted to helping you come to that point when it's time to let go of everything else, let go of mama's thoughts, daddy's thoughts, friends' thoughts, all the relatives' thoughts, turn loose of all of that, and then you got to stand there and say, okay, here I am. I am. Now you see, you can tell by the homelessness, you can tell by the derelicts that are out there killing people for no reason. Life has no value to these people. You can tell by that they've had no leadership. It's important to have leadership, and it's important to have good leadership. I've known people that smoke pot with their kids. I'm one of them. Done cocaine and all that stuff. Now, see, that's leading them down the other way. That's not leading them down the right way. Because I thought that was the right thing to do, man. When they got of age, I could, share it with them, And my son who died in 1996, he was 34 years old. I was blessed to have led him to the Lord a period before he died. He went back out in the world, but I'm living on the fact that he still hung on to that transition he had with the Lord. So, as far as I'm concerned, if we do not pay attention to our children, there's plenty of people that will, and usually for the wrong reasons. So to start with, this person or whoever it is that needs this anger thing, how do you justify by the Word of God the reason for anger, our anxiety, our condemnation, or being rude, or cursing, cheating, stealing, deceiving, adultery, mean attitude? Now, see, those things that I have listed, and I'm going to tell you what, I believe I've had every one of those. But it's like the COVID. I got over it. It took a while. But see, that list goes on and on. Your actions speak volumes to your children. And if you don't start paying attention to what's coming out of your mouth and what is seen with your actions, if you do not start to take and pay attention, there's people that will. There's child molesters out there. There's people that would, in cults, there's predators of all kinds. Don't smother your child. Don't put them in a position where they think they can't even think for themselves. Teach them to think for themselves. Teach them to watch what's going on in this world. We need good leaders. Your child. You look around at that 10-year-old right now. Well, 10 more years, he's going to be 20 years old. That's a potential leader. You need to treat him like that. And you look at a 5-year-old. 20 years down the road, he's going to be 25. I'm going to be dead and gone. But he's going to be 25, and he could be the leader. You see, don't look at who they are. Look at who they're going to be. Look at what God has planned for them. Look inside them now. Don't look inside the dirty diapers and all the stinky stuff. Start looking at what it's going to be. Because when you plant a rose, it's just an ugly little old seed. But man, then after a little while, this beautiful flower comes up or a weed comes up. It depends on how you take care of it. And you need to start looking and start being aware of who you are and why you're here. And see you next Wednesday week. God bless. So long.